Just a second for everyone to log in, get the notifications, and then we will get going. There we are. There we are. Looking good. Looking good. How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Hold on. Let me just get this up here. Get the chat going. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. All right, guys, welcome back. We have a race week this week. So definitely going to be talking about that, talking about training first time into the 40-mile range again. And also to the question that so many people have asked me, what am I doing about my nutrition since the spring energy debacle has really taken place? And maybe that's a good place to start. Actually, before we do start, if you are listening to this on Spotify and you've been a regular listener, if you could please just give this a review. It takes 2 seconds. You just click it and choose how many stars you think is appropriate. I'm a big 5-star guy. If you're listening on Apple, you can also leave a quick review. And if this is your first episode, maybe I can earn your review through this episode every single week. We are live streaming on Monday nights over on YouTube if you want to see the live feed of this. But if you are listening, welcome to your morning commute or your afternoon run or where this is. I hope I can entertain you and take you on a little bit of a journey with what's going on with me while you do what you're doing. So we will start with spring energy. And I think this is, if you don't know what's going on, then maybe you don't take spring energy or you're living under an ultra rock. I don't know how you could not know, but I guess the short story is they're selling a product and their nutrition data did not match up. And we first learned about this, I want to say a month ago. I want to say before I was going into canyons, I knew about people talking about this. And to be honest, that's when I started adding the untapped maple syrup into my routine because I'll admit, I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, like, I was always bonking or I never felt right or I was always hungry. It's so easy to say that in hindsight, but I knew that I didn't know if it was the spring, but I just knew that I wasn't feeling full enough. And I was definitely bonking at the end of long runs. And I'm not even going to say that that was 100% spring energy's fault. Maybe I just didn't know it. And Wise Man once told me this week that it's surprising how many people care so much about nutrition and they don't even have it right. So it's just one of those things where we really don't know. So I started putting in the maple syrup, not because of what I read on Reddit or people sending me articles, because I have been a huge advocate for spring. I've loved the awesome sauce, but only because I wanted a little bit more. And I also wanted to diversify flavors and I didn't want to depend too much on the spring. I started throwing in the untapped maple syrup before canyons. And I know it was before canyons because I had them there. So where I once was doing a spring energy every 30 minutes and then like a honey stinger waffle every 30 minutes, I started mixing in the maple syrup with the awesome sauce, maybe like every other hour when I started to feel a little bit hungry. But to be honest, I had made the switch into depending a lot more on real aid station food. So it wasn't like people like, hey, did it affect you in canyons? I mean, I want to say no. Did I run out of energy? Yes, I did in canyons, but I think that was just me not sticking to my nutrition plan and not eating late in the race. Not because I forgot about it, just because times just starts to get weird at the end of the races and you really, really need to be efficient. And yeah, I definitely had a lack of energy towards the end of the race, but it wasn't like I was still hammering on awesome sauce on the 30 minutes. And, at the end of the race, I got bonked out. If anything, I will say this, and this is where I think most people that I've spoken to, that have been taking spring for a really long time, here's their major frustration. I think not so much in races because I was dealing with aid station food and eating more whole foods. I think if anywhere, it was the months of training and the amount of, I guess, lack of nutrition, how that affected my recovery. I think if anything, it wasn't so much in races. I think it was more there if it would have affected me at all. So with that said, like when Coop came out and talked about it, I mean, I'll give my 2 cents on it. I think, you know, him getting personal with other coaches because of their own personal beef, whatever. That video on Instagram probably could have been a quarter of the amount of time. Let's be honest. He could have said what he had to say and get out without bringing the roaches into it. I don't really know them. I don't know, but apparently there's got to be some beef there. It was a little petty as far as I'm concerned, but I mean, I do respect Coop's opinions. I've read his books, so when I read it on Reddit, I was like, okay, like that's one thing. But when Coop brings it up, even with the pettiness that he went towards, I still respected his opinion and I respected the resources that he had. What's up, Jacob? Start carrying slices of pizza. I'm going to have slices of pizza everywhere. But that's really when I was like, all right. Or at least when I was like, Spring needs to come out and they need to say something. Like the fact that, I mean, the only statement they've made is removing it from their website. That's it. And I'm not somebody that's like, I want my money back. Like, what do we learn? Caveat la emptor or something like that, right? Let the buyer beware. Like, you got to know what you're buying. And yeah, do we trust the lies? Everyone's like, the FDA, it's guys, this is a supplement. It's not regulated by the FDA. Like you do have to be a little bit responsible for your own. I guess, yes, your trusting companies are not going to falsify information. And I mean, why haven't we heard from Spring yet? I'll tell you why we haven't heard from Spring yet, because they are going through every document that they have ever created and they are talking to every lawyer that they know so that they can make a statement that will satisfy an apology and not lead to a class action lawsuit. That's why it's taking so long. They're crossing all their T's and they can't just come out and be like, oh, we didn't know, or we did know. It doesn't matter. But I think from somebody that takes them and somebody also that doesn't hold grudges, I don't have time for grudges. I don't have time to dislike people. If you don't jive with me or you don't align with me, you're just not going to be a part of my life. So I'm not mad about it. I really couldn't care less about it. Oh, Chad with 2 D's is in the house. He said that the CEO did post a short video and it was terrible. I'm sick. All right. Speaking of Chad, his episode is going to be released on Friday, guys. So if you are sticking around and you want somebody that has incredible insight to the 200 scene and the 200 plus scene, 2-time finisher Cocodona, we got Bigfoot in there doing Moab this year. It's done Tahoe. Check out Friday's episode coming up with Chad. Thanks for hopping in, chat, and saying what's up, Chad. But I'm really just one serious apology away from being kind of okay with it, because at the end of the day, it worked for me for a while and it worked for my wife for a while. And if they cut the price in half for what half you're going to get, I'm kind of okay with that. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to go bankrupt. They're finished. Guys, that's not how business works. And, the crowd is fickle. And just like anything, any product, there's been some hate that comes out and then it fades away. And yes, are there going to be the people that want to constantly remind us what Spring Energy did to us back in the day? Yeah, like I come from the personal finance space. You should have seen how long people still hate Robinhood for the day that they halted stocks when it wasn't even there. Like, yes, there will be a small amount of people that just hold on really, really tight. They're going to let the water fade away, they'll go under the bridge, so to speak, and they'll fix their nutrition labels and they'll make it more aligned and they'll price it appropriately and people will be mad. And then slowly but surely they'll be back. And that's okay with me, because the fact of the matter is, if I was really mad at them, I just wouldn't buy their product anymore. And I will tell you what I did buy and what my plan is moving forward until they fix all that. With that said, the CEO of the feed came out, I think Matt is what he goes by, if that's his real name, and said, hey, if you bought it and you want a refund, we'll give you a refund, but it'll be in store credit. Now, I've bought most of mine. I would say 90% of my awesome sauce from the feed because their deliveries was easier, quicker than buying from the website. I in no way, shape, or form am going to punish the feed for selling Spring. I'm not going to do it. So I'm not going to ask for store credit. That's just my personal opinion. I don't care that much. Also, what they said is that they would sell any remaining inventory for 50% off. Half the amount of calories, half the price. Because God knows they weren't going to be able to sell it at the regular price. And there's a really, really good chance that Spring wasn't taking it back. So they did the right thing. They're like, all right, let's just liquidate this shit, literally. And yeah, I bought a bunch. I bought a bunch. I'm not going to lie. Now, here's why I bought a bunch. One, I have a couple races coming up and I'm pacing for something and I know it works for my stomach. And for me, I have a sensitive stomach. It took me a really, really long time to find something that I like. When if you're somebody like me that has a sensitive stomach, when you find something that works for your stomach, it is such a major relief, and it sometimes takes a lot of time. I have a sensitive stomach, and I tried a bunch of different things. And when I found this and it worked well for my stomach, that's number one for me. All like the controversy aside, at the end of the day, that's what works for me. And I have a race this weekend, and I'm pacing a couple really, really big races in the near future. And I do not know if I have enough time to find a new product that is going to work for me. So I bought a bunch. And my wife is half my size. She, at the whatever carbs it is, she never felt hungry. She never bombed. She loved it. So we got it for 50% off. I'll take it. With that said, I wanted something, obviously I thought I was getting 45 carbs and 180 calories. So I wanted something that was close to that. And the closest thing I could find to that was the Science and Sport, the CIS beta fuel, with the 1 to 0.8 ratio of pretty much maltodextrin to fructose. And that's what I bought. And I had my buddy gave me one the other day. It went down, I did the neutral flavor because I don't really like flavors. Worked good for me. I don't know if it I did have to go to the bathroom later after taking it, maybe like 30, 40 minutes after taking it, but that could have just been because we were running at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And maybe that was poop number 2. So that's what I'm going to go with. And very affordable because everyone's like, oh, why don't you go BPN? Why don't you go the BPN Go route with the apples? I didn't really necessarily like the Awesome Sauce because of flavor. The flavor is great. And I've heard other people say it's like, they weren't so popular because they got the flavor right. They were so popular because they got the texture right. And texture is really, really a big deal to people. I've tried the BPN Go. Texture wasn't terrible, but it wasn't enough for me to switch, number one. And the other thing is BPN has what the alleged calorie count of Awesome Sauce is now. So they're pretty much identical products. And with the feed selling them for 50% off, it's essentially the same exact thing. So I just stuck with that. And like I said, I didn't love Awesome Sauce because of the applesauce flavor. I loved it because of the texture, and I loved what I thought. All the memes, I guess we're more fat adapted when we really thought. What's up, Chris? Thanks for hopping in the chat. Yeah, solid move by the feed. That's cold good business. Like I said, he get the same as the guy in Coop's video, that the German company, I think, that was like, we'll refund everything. Like, that is called good business. That is called taking a step back to take 5 steps forward. And it's, good press is better than losing money sometimes, because good press can last a really long time. Losing money for this quarter, and I'm sure the feed isn't going to lose that much. I'm not going to say that they had a 50% margin on that, so like meaning selling it 50% off, they're breaking even. They might be taking a 10% hit on it, and maybe they are going to get some money back from Spring after all. But yes, a really, really good PR move. They didn't wait. They jumped on it, but they're also a huge company, so they can make moves like that. That move would have hit a mom and pop shop a lot harder than it hit the feed, but I think, yeah, a great business move on their end. And at the end of the day, you see that good companies want to make things right. There's a reason why the feed is as successful as it is because they're good at business and they're good at treating people right. So that's going to be the plan. I'm sticking with I'm going to the race this weekend with Awesome Sauce. I'm going to the race this weekend with my untapped maple syrup. And I'm going to this race the same exact plan that I had for Canyons. Simple as that. I don't think I'm going to carry as much. And I think after Canyons, when I depended a lot on the, when I handled the aid station and real food, That's awesome. DJ, yeah. Do I drink coffee during races? I drink a lot in the morning because I'm addicted. But no, I'm mostly caffeine will come from my gels or Coca-Cola. Like I love a good soda, nice flat Coca-Cola during the day. That'll get me my caffeine. But generally, if I'm racing, that adrenaline will take a pretty good stance. Take a little placeholder for caffeine. So with like the 50 miler this weekend, I won't need that caffeine. I'm definitely gonna have some Coke on the course, but I don't think I'm gonna need caffeine. But yeah, also leading into races, I will also detox from caffeine a little bit. So my normal 64 ounces of caffeine or 64 ounces of coffee every single day has been cut over the last week or so. If you notice me grumpy in school, that's why. But yeah, that's caffeine it's one of those things when you learn how to come off of it and then you take it right before a race. Yeah, you come out like a rocket ship and your heart rate gets all messed up, but those are just things that you happen to learn. Thanks for the question, man. I appreciate you. So the 50 miler this week got some upsetting news, and then we'll talk training and everything like that. Got some upsetting news that there's still a ton of snow up on the peaks, and they announced today that it's going to be an out and back, that they have to reroute the course. And I guess they had to reroute it last year because last year was an epic amount of snow, and last year's reroute was actually harder. So I was like, all right, here we go. And they did say in the email from the race director that we got yesterday that it won't be last year's course. They kind of came up with that course last minute, and there was one climb on there. It was stupid at 20 minutes. It was just straight up. And he said in the email, like, sorry about that climb. I didn't plan on that. So apparently we're going to find out tonight Pacific time, which should be maybe before I go to bed tonight. We'll find out what they plan on routing that course to be. But this morning I was really, really bummed about it. I reached out to some friends and some people racing, and I was like, I wanted that epic loop. I wanted that 9,000 foot peak, and we're still going to be up over 8,000 feet. We're going to be up there. And I'm reminded by Dave Matthews, turns out not where, but who you're with, that really matters. And I'll be there with a couple of really, really good friends. And we're going to have 50 miles on the trails, and it's going to be over 90 degrees. That does not change the plan, though, of full effing send. Blow up city. We're going for it still. And I mean, that's not going to change. The sub 12-hour goal is still on the table. I am still going to make Jacob feel uncomfortable in those first couple miles by going out a little too hard. And yeah, that's still the plan. And we'll find out next Monday exactly how that plan went. And that's really all I have to say about that. I'm bringing my poles, and I'm going to use poles in the race. That was a question I got asked. The shoes that I'm going to use in that race, I'm going to use the Challengers. I'm really not changing anything up from Canyons. I'm going to be wearing a rabbit shirt, and just found out that I got picked for the Rad Rabbits this year, so I'll be wearing a lot of rabbit gear. I already do. I pretty much race in their button downs every single race. So now I'll get a couple of discounts, and you'll see me in a lot more of their gear, which is kind of exciting. It's nice when you really rep a brand and then they come back and they rep you as well. It's kind of cool. So we'll be wearing that. I just recently got a drone, so the YouTube video is going to be even more epic than all of my other races. I'm looking forward to. I've been learning how to fly the drone all week, and I'm comfortable enough where I'm going to be bringing that and getting some really, really cool footage of Utah. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to get out there. I'm really excited to race. And then that kind of caps off the build out of Canyons, which we can talk about training a little bit. I've been going time-based. I mentioned this briefly, but I've been going time-based since I came out of Canyons. And for the last couple of weeks, I really wanted 7 hours. And I've done 7 hours pretty much on the dot the last 3 weeks. And with that has come 3 different real mileages based on my pace and based on how much elevation. I think 3 weeks ago, I got about 6,000 feet and maybe 34 miles. Last week, I got 4,000 feet, closer to 37 miles. And this week, I think I got like 1,300 feet, with over 40 miles. And I think it was, it's so weird to think about coming out of the 30-mile week and entering the 40s, and then looking at my whole plan as we go for the sub 24 Javelina run. I don't know if I'm going to have a 30-mile week again before November. Like, I think every single week between now and November is going to be over 40. I mean, depending on how this race goes this week, I should be able to get at least 40 the following week. I'm going to get at least 50 this week, and then I'll get 40. Maybe there'll be a pullback, depending on how the race goes. If we full send back into maybe the 35s, but yeah, not too many 30s left. And I've really, really liked having the time-based weeks, and it's kind of leading me in the direction of building according to time moving forward. And that will be new for me because I've always been a mileage guy, but I've really liked being able to say, I'm going out for 7 hours this week. Next week, I'm going to go out for 8. Next week, I'm going to go out for 9, etc. Because like I said, I was able to vary not only the elevation, but the types of runs that I did. Like this week, I really, really pushed the pace on every single run that I did, and I felt it, with the exception of Friday, which we'll talk about Friday in a second. And we'll also, Friday I want to talk about, and I want to talk Saturday specifically as well. But I think moving forward on these Monday night live streams where we talk about the training block, which officially I think is going to start the 16th of June, that'll get me like maybe 18 weeks or so. I think we're going to talk a lot about training according to time and not so much distance, at least for, I want to say, the first 4 weeks, just to see if I can handle it. And then going from there, that's really, I think, what I want to do. And on Friday, I tweaked the ankle a little bit. And here's really what I want to say. I don't mention that stuff on Instagram. And there's a reason why I'll mention it here, and I don't mention it on Instagram. I'll mention it here because I want people that are listening to know that if you run in the trails, you are going to tweak an ankle, and you are going to roll an ankle from time to time. You're going to sprain it really, really bad. You run in the trails a lot, it might happen like almost once a year. I'm at like every year and a half, I get a proper sprain. I also have really weak ankles, so I want to say it here too that I used to get a lot more ankle sprains early on. And I mean, I've been doing this 2 years, but it was happening like every time. I was like afraid to run in the trails. And there's a couple of things to think about if you're having ankle issues. Number one, strengthen your freaking ankles. It was simple as that. My PT is like, Brad, your ankles are weak. You have weak ankles, dude. You have weak ankles. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And I started doing different exercises, but I'm here to tell you that even doing those exercises, it's still going to happen from time to time. Also, too, just watch your stack height in the trails, please. I mean, the higher you're coming up off the ground, obviously we need a little bit of cushion, but I've also found that the higher my stack height, the more likely I am to roll ankles. And the challengers are about as high as I want to go as far as stack height. Heel to toe drop, I don't really see that being that big of an issue, but definitely stack height. I don't say it on Instagram because it's not the Stoics remind us, never be overheard complaining, even to oneself. And I do not want to sound like I'm complaining if I get on there like, oh, I tweaked the ankle. You know, it was okay. It was one of those where I said to Ryan, give me a second, dude. He's like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and take a leak and you catch up. Caught up, took it easy, but also too that knowing how to recover like right away and get to recovery and stay in motion. I remember when I used to tweak an ankle and it was like, sit down, feet up, blah, blah, blah. Now a little bit of ice and then walking, unless like, if you're taking steps, it's not broken. And if it's not bruising up right away, it's not grade 3. Like these little tweaks, I found that just taking the dog for a walk and movement is going to be the best. And when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be tender. And guys, I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying motion is lotion from what I've seen. When things bother me, I just move and move and move. And as long as it's not getting worse and worse and worse, I keep moving and moving and moving. And that's really been the ticket for me. I woke up Saturday and I wanted 3 hours, but I ended up going for 2 because of that. And I went running with Ryan and Nikki. And dude, let me just tell you, I've seen Nikki run. And if you're in the 50K ready Strava group. He is the kid that is just dominating the leaderboard every single week. His coach is a stud around these parts. And this kid is 20 years old. And I have no problem saying that, like, he'll be known. He's going to be known. I'm going to have him on I have to have him on the podcast. He's just a straight savage for 20 years old. You know, like, what 20-year-old is meeting a bunch of old dudes at the state park at 5:00 in the morning to do 4-hour runs? And he did it Saturday and Sunday, went back out with Ryan for 4 more. So Nikki, if you listen to this, bud, good on you, man. He pushed the pace and hung with us. And I bailed off after 2 hours, and he hung with Ryan, and Ryan is no slouch. And I think he was second at Shore to Shore here, the 50K. And he said he bonked late. If he wouldn't have bonked, probably would have cleaned up that race. I'm trying to talk him into coming up and doing the Jigga Johnson 20 miler, but we'll see if we can get Nikki to do that. But I ran with those guys. And as somebody that loved to train alone, I know that I love to train alone because I like to dictate my own pace. When I feel good, I like to go fast. When I feel crappy, I like to go slow. I like to be able to pull off in the woods and use the woods whenever I need to. But I also know, and this is kind of, if you're listening and you hate training with people, it's holding you back. It's holding you back if you train alone. There's only so many free throws you could take in your front yard in the basketball hoop. There's only so many crossovers you could do with nobody standing in front of you until you put somebody there. And I know that if I'm serious about this 24-hour goal, I need to run with people that make me feel uncomfortable. And I'm not even saying that like Ryan makes me feel uncomfortable, like he's half wheeling me or he's like trying to run off the front. He's just a faster guy. He's just more fit than I am. And for a long time going into canyons where I knew I wanted to survive, he would invite me out and I'd say, you know, I'll pass, or I'll meet you later, or I'm not going to do that. I'd make every excuse in the book. But the fact of the matter is, it was just, I did not want him to run me into the ground. So this week I said the same. I was trying to make excuses, and Tara's like, nah, dude, go. Like, is this 24-hour then? Are you just saying it, or do you want it? And I'm like, I want it. So I got there early because I'm also a very slow starter. I need those 2-3 miles to get going before I want to hammer. And so I got there. I think they started at 6. I got there at 5:30. Got a good half hour in. Sure enough, him and Nikki come up, and yeah, we pushed for me. They say all day pace. It was pushing for me. I'll tell you that. And because of that, my legs, they feel heavy. They feel good. And then Sunday, I wanted to get out flat. I've been trying a new pair of shoes for the road, the Mountain Coast R1s. They sent me a pair of shoes. You'll see they've been sending a lot of people shoes. And as of right now, the hype is pretty real on them. I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm going to make a full review video, but that's kind of what I did on Sunday. And I wanted to get 50 miles on those shoes that I've had for about 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks, so I can make a proper review. So that got me to 41 miles for the week, and I'm happy. I'm happy with that. This week being a race week, I am going to run when I feel like it, and that's how I usually always handle race weeks. Tomorrow, it's going to be beautiful. We'll talk maybe 5K. Go out for 30 minutes. I think that's what you'll see this week. Wednesday, I will run hard, but as you guys know, when I taper, if you've never heard me say this before, when I taper, I just lower volume. I do not change intensity. So I've been running tempo every single Wednesday. I will run tempo again on Wednesday. But generally, I'm running tempo for like 7-8 miles. I might run tempo for 3-4 miles on Wednesday just to keep that up. And then Thursday is going to be a travel day. Jacob's going to come out. We fly out at 8:30 p.m. So maybe we'll go for a little run before the airport. I doubt it. We'll see what he's into, or maybe he's going to run before he comes out. I have to go to work. And then, Saturday is going to be race day. Full send. 5:00 in the morning starts, 8:00 Eastern time. So hopefully before y'all go to bed here on the East Coast, I'll be in, or I'll be walking in, because we're going for it. We're going for it. And then Sunday would be another travel day. Probably try and maybe shake out. We fly out like 4:30 in the afternoon. So maybe we'll get another couple miles in, depending on how we feel. And then Monday will be my regular rest day, and we will get back to here. My goal is 7 hours when we get back next week. So just another 7 hours. And then that will get me into the start of my official training block, which, man, I'm kind of nervous about, because it's one thing to like have a goal of finishing, but I think when you add time and speed and those things into the equation, I think things become just a little bit more real. If you guys are listening and you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. Yeah, the feed will send you a nice little water bottle. I do like that. Is it 15? I thought they sent you some more money now. I think when I did it, I think it was like $25 you got if you completed the Strava challenge. Some other things to note before we get you out of here is it's definitely warming up. Definitely love that. There's something to be said. I think it was like Friday night when I was getting ready. I'm a big like lay out all my clothes the night before, especially because I'm not a really, really big morning person. And I was like kind of pacing around the kitchen, and like my wife sees me like just looking around. I said something like, "Man, it's nice not having to like collect all this winter gear, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is fantastic. I really just need to wake up, put a t-shirt, shorts, and grab some water. I don't need to worry about like, where's my hat? Which gloves should I bring? Do I need the really warm gloves, the regular gloves? Do I need my Patagonia? Do I need a jacket? Do I need a base layer? Where's my long sleeve therm? It was just nice. And it was the first real longer run I did since Canyons. And yeah, I like running in the warm and getting a good sweat in. So that's kind of cool. I hope it's getting warm for you. Jacob asked if I'm getting a coach for Javelina. Very up in the air. And I don't really know how to say. I wasn't upset with my coach for Canyons by any means. I I loved it. And I miss having a coach so much. Even a coach just to say, Brad, you don't need to be running right now. Like, you're good, dude. That would have been really nice, because I've already gotten into the habits, or the mind fuck of being like, should I run this? Should I do this? Should I do that? And as of now, no. And we're 20 weeks out from Javelina. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to bring on a coach. If I do, I don't know if it's going to be Mike. He was great. I don't know if I could afford him. It was a really, really big investment. And I know that he specializes in really, really long distance. So if I do bring on a coach, I might bring on somebody that's just a little bit more focused on like the speed side of a 100. That's all I really want to say. I think I would like to make a decision before 16 weeks out. So I have 4 weeks before I decide if I'm going to bring on a coach. And here's kind of the back and forth with the coach thing to me. I know now after Canyons the benefits of a coach. And I know for sure I will have more success in Javelina if I bring on a coach. And I know for sure that I will have less mental stress if I bring on a coach. Guys, having a coach is an amazing, amazing luxury. And I'm not just saying that because I want to bring on more athletes, but you can check out my website if you want to inquire about it. It really is, but it's a financial investment. And as somebody with a family and somebody that just took on a huge financial endeavor with going to Canyons and things like that, and bringing on a professional runner, a professional coach, I don't know if I can swing it. So it's kind of like I have to think like logically, is the cost and the financial investment worth how much gains I think that coach is going to bring me, if that makes sense. And I hope it does. It's one of those things, like, if I can't bring on a coach, it's not going to be because I don't think a coach can help me. I know for a fact I will go faster if a coach is with me, but it's a matter of like, if I can go 23:58 by myself, I don't know if I want to pay for a coach to go 22:58 or 22. That's what I have 4 weeks to figure out. And it's weighing on me. I'm losing sleep over it. Not gonna lie. That is you poked me with that question. It's because, like I said, I can't say it enough. I would not have been as prepared for canyons if I didn't have a coach. I self-coached for Grindstone, and I'll say it, I did not finish Grindstone because I self-coached it. I wasn't prepared, and it wasn't even the mileage for Grindstone. I was prepared for Grindstone mileage-wise. I was doing 60, 70-mile weeks, but I wasn't prepared, or I wasn't that good at nutrition. I didn't really know water to salt. I didn't know when to pull back when I was overtrained. I didn't know the importance of sleep. I didn't have multiple gear options and know how to pack my pack and how to crew aid stations, things like that, that just a coach can just bring experience in your first time. And at first I was like, all right, I'll bring on a coach if I go up in distance. But every race is different. Every 100-miler is different. You have different goals. If my goal is to go out and like put on a costume and just kick it at Javelina and have a grand old time, and I was still a party animal and I was just going to like la-di-da, no coach. But man, that's not what I'm here for right now. And that's the reason why I might. So I've been asking around. I've been inquiring, if you will. I've been dabbling in coaches, interviewing, if you will. But I don't know. We'll find out. Andrew, great question. What poles am I running with? I am currently using the Black Diamond Z-Fold poles. They're carbon poles. I used to run with the Harrier poles. They're a small company out of the UK. I made a video on it on the YouTube channel. I think I titled it like the most affordable pair of poles you could buy, or the best first timers poles. I named it. You could find it in my gear list on YouTube. Still stand by that. If you do not have poles and you want to try, I think those Harrier poles, for a number of different reasons, are a great place to start. One, there's Z-Fold, so you learn that style of pole. And another good thing I liked about them was and by the way, not sponsored, those ones extended. So you have like fixed length poles. These ones extended, which added a little bit of weight. But I think they extended from like 120 to 125 centimeters, that is. And as somebody with new pole, like you can go on the website and you can like hold the poles, and it's like, hold your arm at a 90-degree angle. And I'm sitting there like a freaking idiot with like a broomstick, like trying to measure, like, what do you think? And then of course I'm like right in between sizes, and it's like, it was just easier to get a pole and run with them and adjust them here and there. And turns out, like, yeah, the website fit guide would have had me at 120, but for my style and what I really like poles for, the 120, I found myself always putting the Harriers at 125. So going up to the Black Diamonds was a upgrade, if you will. Like I ran with the Harriers. I still have them. They're my backup set. I bring them out in the rain, things like that. The Black Diamonds were an upgrade, and they feel like an upgrade. They're lighter. The straps are just better, but as I said, you pay for what you get. So if you've been using poles, highly recommend. I know everyone likes the Lecky or the Leaky poles. I thought about them when I got the Black Diamond poles. They were sold out. But I also just see people breaking those left and right, and they're not cheap. So knowing what I know now with the Black Diamond, I don't see Instagram pictures of people breaking Black Diamond poles all over the place. And maybe there's just that many more people using the Leaky poles that it's the same percentage of breaks per people that own the poles, you know what I mean? But yeah, those are the ones I'm rocking. And I personally tend to like poles more downhill. As somebody with glass ankles, like I mentioned before, and as somebody that's been a skier my whole life, and just knowing how to manage downhill on skis with poles, keeping my hands out in front of me, and like always having like a tree, or like when you're running, I'm always looking for a tree to grab and hold on to. that's really why I like the 125s or the 120s, because I like to lead out downhill. So that downhill pitch gives me that 5 centimeters. Uphill, they definitely help. They really do. But especially in canyons with the 23,000 feet of descent, when people's quads are blown, I know they saved my quads. I know they did. I know on the downhills, being able to have my first point of contact be a pull and then take a little bit off. And you have to train those, because my arms, when I first started using the poles, my shoulders, my triceps, they'd be sore. So it's definitely something like you can't. And I was talking with my buddy Adam, this is going to be his first 50 mile this weekend. And we had the pole conversation. He's like, Brad, I never really ran with poles. And I'm like, that could be a detriment, because I've heard of poles, if you don't know how to use them, they'll definitely slow you down. They could be inefficient if you don't know how to use them. And I only know that from experience as well. So if you're thinking poles, I know a lot of people say like over 10,000 feet, is where people start to think about poles. And then I know the old school guys that are like, poles are cheating. No, they're not if they're allowed, bud. So you can bring your ego to whatever camp you want to bring it to, but as long as you're allowed to use them, why wouldn't you? That's kind of the way I feel. And, but if you don't know how to use them, they can be a detriment. But I will be making a review video. But here's the other thing with the review videos is, if the product has been out for a long time, I'm not just going to make the video for the sake of making the video and say that like other people don't review it as good as I can. I'd much rather speak about it here or show it in videos. And if Black Diamond came out with a new pole and I got it, yeah, but that pole's been out for years and they really haven't changed it much. So if you don't know, or you want to know exactly the one, just slide in my DMs and I'll send you a link to the exact ones I had. Once again, not sponsored. And I'm going to have those poles. I mean, if they broke on Saturday, I'd buy the same exact poles. I wouldn't go for the leaky poles. And actually, I'd probably use the Harriers for a little bit until I had another race, because I know that something like Javelina, I'm not going to run with poles in Javelina. I'm going to want my poles when I'm out Bigfoot with Jacob, and I'm definitely going to want them at Jigger Johnson on the 20th. I'm going to want them Crazy Mountains. So yeah, if I need a new set of poles, that's probably the ones I'll get. Thanks for the question, man. You guys got any other questions that you'd like to ask? I think I hit everything. I really did, at least for this week. At least I'm going to full send it. Oh, I mean, I'll say again, thanks for the support on Chris's episode. Great episode. And I think I got more downloads on that episode than 5 months combined. Chad's episode is going to be coming out. That's going to be a great episode. And then in 2 weeks, we got a big one. Wait for the big one. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. If there's no other questions, I'm going to hop out of here and get to bed. And yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks so much. As I mentioned early in the episode, here's a good one. Why don't you lead more towards energy drinks? The sugar, energy drinks are just bad sugar, and I'm not trying to raise my heart rate. Simple as that. I take caffeine for the drug, but like there's adrenaline. Like when you're blazing down the trails and you're looking out at views and there's other people there, you're so fired up. The last thing you're thinking is, I need energy, to be honest, and I'm getting all the nutrition I need from everything else that's like run specific stuff. But yeah, just they're not good for you. And neither is caffeine, but the drinks, I try and avoid liquid calories, really, if I can. If you're listening on this on Spotify, please, if you consider giving it a thumbs up or a 5-star review. I want to thank Mike with a T. He's not only a YouTube channel member, but he's also a supporter over on Spotify. There's a link in all the descriptions. If you want to support both the podcast, you can either become a channel member here. I think it's $1 a month and cover the cost of my streaming services and things like that. Help me break even. And you get a cool little emoji next to your name in the chat. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Any other questions? You can visit 50kready.com. That is the website. And any information you need, all the product reviews, my race calendar, coaching, everything, the Run Club, the Strava group, everything is on 50kready.com. All right, guys. Until I see you on the next one, I will, have a great week, guys.